Hello, welcome to For Fox's Sake. My name is Rob Hayes. This is the preview. I've got Jono and Ashley in the studio with us this Thursday evening, looking ahead to Leicester City versus Charlton Athletic, which is the first competitive game for interim manager Andy King. And we'll be getting into that in a few minutes in terms of what kind of impact he may or may not have been able to have on the squad this week after the sacking of Marty Cifuentes on Sunday. If you haven't yet seen all the reaction from For Fox's Sake to the Cifuentes sacking, you can have a browse of our YouTube channel, For Fox's Sake Live, and of course the website forfoxsake.news. And between Andy and Pete, they have pretty much talked and written Cifuentes' departure virtually to death. So plenty for you to consume there if you're a couple of days behind and you're just catching up. Forfoxsake.news is, of course, our website, which launched at the beginning of this month. Just $5 a month for a subscription, and there is loads of content there in terms of what's going on day to day at Leicester City in the present day, and loads of historical stuff on there as well. We've got interviews with ex-players, sort of where are they now features, and lots more to come over the coming months. So forfoxsake.news is the website if you've not yet checked it out. Plenty of reaction on there, and our socials to the sacking of Cifuentes, to the interviews that Top has done, first time in 10 years speaking to UK media at the weekend as well, bizarrely timed before the sacking of Cifuentes, which I found a little bit strange anyway. But we are going to try to make this mostly related to Leicester versus Charlton on Saturday. But before we do, some news has broken within the last couple of hours, and it's made Jono very, very excited. So before I even ask, are we optimistic or pessimistic about Saturday? Jono, why have you got the disco lights on?
Because I'm celebrating. Oh, yeah. Samare's off. He's gone. It's the news we've all wanted to hear. Woohoo!
Yeah, Leicester City have, the official line is that they've agreed the permanent transfer of Boubakary Soumaré to a mid-table Qatari side. Now, it doesn't actually mention any money in that, so I'm hoping that we got at least a couple of pence for him. And Ashley, apart from celebrating there with Jono, you've also had a little delve into the finances behind Soumaré. Go on, tell the viewers and the listeners how much that man has cost Leicester City over the last 4.5 years.
Right, have you got your tissues ready? So that man has cost us 32 million in all, through fees and wages and what have you. 32 million.
And does anybody listening or watching, particularly those of you live, so you can comment, does anybody think that man was worth spending 32 million pounds on over 4.5 years? I'm guessing the answer is probably not. Now, I'm sad that Joe's not on the show this evening, because he's absolutely a massive fan of Soumaré, and he was an advocate in our WhatsApp group for a 2-hour special, sort of commiserating Leicester fans that Soumaré had gone. But off he's gone anyway. Blue Fox Forever is saying good evening to you all. A busy week and a great disco celebration. Thank you, Blue Fox Forever. Indeed, a busy week. Yes, a busy week for us here at Fox's Sake, and of course a busy week at Leicester as well. Jono, go on.
Talking about Soumaré, if we were to do a big Soumaré special, how long would the show reel be? We're talking 2-hour special. We'd have to put that on repeat a few times, wouldn't we?
Yeah, because I think by probably the first 20 minutes, we'd all be fed up of saying how much of an average footballer he was. And I was looking at his stats earlier because I was doing a piece for the website, which will go live just after this show, about him. And he very rarely scored, very rarely got any assists. And I've just come off the phone actually with Pete Selby, who was ringing me to ask me how Google Drive works. That's Pete, the technical whiz behind For Fox's Sake. And he described Soumaré as a wardrobe of a midfielder. And he's right, because when Soumaré actually fancied it, which wasn't very often, but when he did, he was quicker than most players, stronger than most players, good ball carrier under pressure. But most of the time, his thought processes were at least 2 or 3 seconds behind anybody else, weren't they?
I think the best thing he did is when he got that assist for the last minute equaliser. Was it against Ipswich when he won the ball on the halfway line? So you can't even remember.
Wow. 32 million for 10 seconds of glory. I mean,
yeah.
There's your highlights reel, Jono. That's what you wanted.
Yeah. Mr. Rudkin, take your hat off.
And we wonder why we're in a mess.
Yeah.
Anyway, Andy King's in charge now, so everything's going to be absolutely fine. I think on For Fox's Sake, we most of the time we try to provide a bit of a considered point of view. Not that we force anybody that comes on the show to hold that, and we very much welcome our contributors' opinions, but we like to try to balance things, take both sides of the argument, etc., etc. But certainly over the last few weeks, we were, as a group, leaning more and more to Cifuentes out, simply because, and nobody really could lay that much blame at his door in terms of what's going on at the club, but there surely has to be somebody who can get a bit more out of the team. So we'll specifically look at how City might approach the game on Saturday in a few minutes' time. But just a word from you guys. Start with you, Ashley. On do you think, at least in the short term, Andy King over the next few games, say if that's what he gets in charge, do you think he's going to be able to get more out of Cifuentes? I guess asking the question in reverse. Do you think there is any more to get out of the team, or do you think Cifuentes was already maxing their ability?
Yeah, it's one of them questions, and that it's hard to answer because until we see him play against Charlton, we're not going to know if King gets a tune out of them or not. But I don't know. The players have let us down that many times over this season. It's hard to predict. It's hard to be positive about them. I know it sounds really negative, but what have we had to shout about? I mean, how many times have we been 3-0 down at half time this season? So you can't put the blame all on Marte. I hope King does kick up the arse and get some playing, but I just can't see it. I really hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's that one that you get, isn't it, when a manager's sacked, Jono, and especially, I guess, people that don't necessarily follow football so much, like my long-suffering wife, who's been by proxy a Leicester fan now for a decade. Bless her. She's from Burton-on-Trent, so Burton Albion, supporting Leicester's better than supporting Burton Albion anyway. But she says, and she'll say, why does the manager always get the sack? Why can't he sack the players? And I appreciate the sentiment. Obviously, from a business point of view, to try and offload that many useless players is much more difficult, as Leicester have proven over the years, to get rid of useless players. But Ashley's right in the sense that the players have far from covered themselves in glory. But I think Cifuentes was a likable bloke. And I get the sense from certain things that players have said and reactions to him going that the players actually seem to quite like him. But my concern was the fact that, as well as what Ashley said was right there, that we were like getting hammered at half time in too many games. But we conceded so many early goals at the beginning of the first half and the second half. And surely at those stages of the game, that's when the manager's words should be ringing in your ears the loudest, and if he had any kind of ability to motivate those players, then they surely would have started games and started second halves much better than they did. So nice bloke by all accounts, Jono, but it's Andy King's job really to get them coming out and have his words in their ears and getting a performance in from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I was just Googling Burton Albion while you were talking, just to see if it actually is genuinely worse to be a Burton Albion fan than a Leicester City fan.
It is.
And I think you're probably about right. They're 20th in League One. So, yeah, if things could be any worse for Leicester, then there's your example, I suppose. I mean, I had to Google it, though, because I wasn't sure, because things aren't hunky-dory Leicester-wise. But anyway, I think Andy King will get something more out of them, to be honest. I think the Oxford United game, I think, and probably the games before that, the Wrexham game, and were probably examples of where I think the players had probably stopped playing for Marty, frankly. And I think that the fact that Top had arrived for the Oxford United game, Oxford not being a great side at all, and then the players putting in a performance like that suggested to me that they're probably, throwing Marty under the bus a little bit and decided not to, turn up for whatever reason against Oxford United to ultimately get rid of him. So I think that was their agenda. I think we've seen it before with this squad of players. We've seen it before at Leicester many, many times where, they seem to like to throw managers under the bus. So I think that Andy King will get a reaction. And I think that it felt like the reaction against the result from the stands against Oxford was such that I think it almost called for a reset, to be honest. It was such a reaction against the team and such a reaction on socials and everything else. And Top acknowledged it as well, that I feel like I'm hoping that it will shock the players into actually saying, what are we doing? And give them the reset that I think that we deserve. So I think that probably in the short term, we will get a reaction. And there is enough quality still maintained in the squad, I think, to be able to get a result against Charlton. I know I said that last week against the Oxford preview, but I actually genuinely think that Marty going will hopefully have some positivity brought back into the team. Maybe some players will return. Maybe, it will give them the kick up the arse that they need. The fact that Top's been talking about as well as not performing, the reaction of the fans as well, all of that combined, I'm hoping will give the necessary kick up the arse to the players. So yeah, I'm feeling relatively optimistic now that Marty's gone.
Yeah, I think you're right, and the word reset is probably quite a good one. And in terms of the interim coach, interim manager Andy King, it's a much better situation than, say, a sort of random member of the coaching staff who hadn't been at the club that long or doesn't necessarily understand the club. Andy King has the goodwill of every single Leicester supporter. 100%. So on Saturday, I would expect that, although the team aren't magically going to be transformed overnight, the league table doesn't look any better now that Cifuentes is gone than it did before his sacking was confirmed on Sunday afternoon. But I feel like Leicester fans will be going to the King Power on Saturday lunchtime with a bit more of a spring in their step because it's Andy King at the end of the day. So let's have a look at what he might do in terms of personnel, in terms of shape. And it's a difficult conversation to have without knowing the full facts. No sort of pre-match press conference today. Don't know whether King will do one or not, to be perfectly honest, but I expected, with it being a Saturday lunchtime game and Leicester having played last Saturday, that maybe Thursday would be the day that they'd choose for the press conference. So we'd be a bit more in the know in terms of injury updates and stuff, but we're not. So we don't know if Skip will be back. We know that James won't be. We've, for those of you just joining us and wondering why Jono's got the disco lights on, we are celebrating the departure of Boubakary Soumaré today from Leicester. So we know he's, he'd probably fall into the match day squad somehow, knowing Soumaré, wouldn't he? Just still be there knocking about. There is a question mark over Ben Nelson, who went off injured at half time against Oxford, which leaves us light defensively because obviously Wout Fass has moved on this transfer window. So there's not a huge amount for Andy King to play with. So I had a look back at at the shape that he employed at the beginning of pre-season, because if you cast your minds back to the summer, he was in charge in that weird big gap between Van Nistelrooy going and a new manager coming in. He was asked to take lead training, and he had friendlies against Peterborough and OH Leuven and won both of them. And I don't want to put a dampener on anybody's spirits here, but he did play 4-2-3-1 in both of them. Now I think a lot of people do have a bit of an issue with that system, or at least the issue might be with the fact that Cifuentes refused to budge from that system and would always play that. But I think looking at the personnel that we've got, and people have talked on past shows about 3 at the back. Can we do that? Can we do wing backs? Can we sort of try 2 up top? That kind of thing. I don't really think we've got the personnel to do anything pretty much other than the 4-2-3-1 at the minute. But I guess then the question is, how can he change the style of play within that formation to enable Leicester to be more effective and to get the fans on board a little bit more? Because it was very passive under Cifuentes. It was pedestrian for a lot of the time. We sort of ranked right at the bottom of the championship in terms of running stats and recovery times and stuff like that. So, Jono, surely the bare minimum, regardless of the shape, when you set it out as a formation on a website, or if you look at the names on it, surely the bare minimum is that ball moves quicker and the players are more willing to work for each other.
100%. I think we've said it many, many times on multiple podcasts this season that regardless of the formational tactics, it's about application of the players. And I don't think that's the application of the players has been anywhere near good enough to the levels that it needs to be. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter, I don't think, about the formation so much as let's get out there and actually apply the players apply themselves. And like you say, move the ball quicker, get it forward quicker. And be in their faces and be a bit more aggressive, less passive. I think we've seen it in tiny spells this season, in various games, but when we have done that kind of thing, then we've looked a little bit better. We've looked a half decent outfit at this level. So yeah, I think it's about application. I don't necessarily think changing formation is going to make that much difference. Let's just get the players out there, the best team out there that we can, and just make sure that they're motivated and make sure that they're doing the right things.
Yeah, first half against Coventry comes straight into my mind in terms of a good performance where there was intent with and without possession. Yeah. And they've shown it in little patches, but I don't think the Cifuentes style has really helped things. But again, we're not blaming everything on him. We're not saying that everything's going to be rosy on Saturday because Cifuentes is gone. Andy Moore of forfoxsake.news is watching along live with us. He's saying Winks to score a 91st minute winner. So, Ashley, we'll come to you on this one because I know you mentioned pre-show before we went live that this was something you wanted to discuss. Harry Winks out in the cold, links this transfer window to getting him off the books. He's commanding a ridiculous wage for a man that's probably just cutting the grass at Seagrave or whatever he's doing. Is there a way back into the fold for him in terms of, I guess the question is, did he fall out with Cifuentes and therefore Cifuentes didn't play him? Because if he did and he's still absolutely fine with the players, then I think he can be brought back into the fold. But if it's a wider issue around his attitude and he's not really part of the squad, surely we can't see him come back in under King.
Well, it's obviously an issue with his attitude because he's done it since Enzo left, because, he fell out with Cooper, I think, by the end. And obviously we already know that Van Nistelrooy, that came to a conclusion, the relationship between them two. And now I think it started off okay, didn't it, with Marty? And then all of a sudden he kind of decided to down tools again. Now, he's on about 90 grand a week, if I'm believed to be right. Now, whether you've got problems with the manager or not, you've still got a job to do, and there's still fans that you should be playing in front of, and you're on very good money. For you to just down tools like that, I think it's unprofessional. And to say, oh, yeah, let's get him back into the team, why? He doesn't deserve it. Why should we give him a second chance? Well, he's had numerous chances. So for me, I know we're struggling, but that's irrelevant for me. I don't think he deserves it.
Yeah, I think it'd be a difficult one because you'd also be looking at the fact that nobody knows at this stage whether Andy King's going to be in charge for 1 game, 5 games, or the rest of the season. So it may be something that he also doesn't risk if he is only in for the short term. If he gets told, right, we've looked at the candidates, we've seen how you've got on in your first few games, Andy, the job's yours at least till the end of the season. And then he looks at his midfield and he goes, right, we're light there with Jordan James not being available and Samari moving on. And ultimately, on his day, when his attitude's right, Harry Winks is one of the best midfielders in the Championship.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
But for me, if I'm Andy King and I'm thinking I've only got a couple of games here to try and get some positive results and try and get some positivity back into Leicester, I don't think you risk dragging him into that, do you?
Well, no, not for me anyway. I mean, the mood's already toxic, so do we really need it up in a bit more, Because I don't think the fans are going to be welcoming him back with open arms because he's the way he's acted. So, and I'd say it's not just a one-off, it's 3 managers he's done it to now, so it's a no from me anyway.
Let's have a look at some other personnel. Buzzer, good evening to you. Thanks for your comment. Thanks for watching along live with us. I wonder if Koulibaly gets recalled as he's not featured. He played a couple of games at AFCON, Warrior Koulibaly. Remember him? Still a Leicester player, believe it or not. Maybe Alves recalled. I think Alves just coming back from injury at Huddersfield, scored a decent goal recently. I think a lot of people hoped that he would be amongst the sort of Page, Monga, Silko Thomas group that had more of an impact on Leicester's season, really. But he's had a bit of a stop-start time of it for such a young lad. So I mean, those are 2 possibilities, but there might be fees on the recalls and stuff like that. It may be cheaper bringing them back than it may be bringing in external players from elsewhere. But I think with someone like Koulibaly, it was such a weird sign. It was the only January signing in January. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but he's not great if he's not playing regularly at an average team in Italy. And he got himself sent off at AFCON, and he's never really featured for Leicester. I don't necessarily think he's the solution to our problems at fullback, and we do have some. Let's be perfectly honest about that. I just wonder, let's just touch on the youth players a little bit because we do like to talk about them here at Fox's Sake, and they have featured quite a lot, predominantly off the bench this season. But and again, the only thing we've got to go off with Andy King is the fact that he's spent time around the academy in the last few years. He's had a bit of a fast track up from that kind of position, given his status at the club. And he featured quite a few of those young players in pre-season. Now, you see a lot of young players anyway because the squad's always much bigger because players aren't playing 90 minutes and so forth. But Louis Page scored twice against Peterborough in Andy King's first game as interim manager, and I would expect Page to be starting in midfield for Leicester on Saturday. Monga, it was also really his first pre-season with the senior squad that Andy King was in and around. So it's excellent to have our interim manager as somebody that knows the young players' strengths inside out, Jono, and knows whether we've been right all along in calling for them to start more games, because at least they show, even if they're a little bit more raw, they show a bit more passion and a little bit more drive. Andy King knows them inside out. He's the right man to make that decision come Saturday.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. He will know not only the players that have been filtered into the first team, but he'll also know who's in and around the 21s that may have a claim as well. On Harry Winks, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because for me, it depends on the relationship he has with the management now, and whether he's fallen out with them as well. Andy King, I mean. And to me, I think his time is done. I think we've just got to put him to bed, basically, and he should have gone way before now. So, unfortunately, as much as I'd like Harry Winks to feature, because I know he's got the quality to do so, I think we've just got to almost make an example of him and say, look, enough is enough. But yeah, in terms of the young players, absolutely. Sammy Braybrook was the one that sprang to mind when I saw Samari was off. I was like, he's out on loan. By all accounts, he's been doing okay. Could we bring him back? Because he's kind of like a, similar position kind of player. Are there options for us to bring back the likes of him and Will Alves as well to kind of bolster the squad? I don't know.
Yeah, Braybrook was at Newport and he's just started a new loan at Chesterfield. So I think you probably have to pay Chesterfield a fair amount of money and beg them to have him back. And also you got to look at that. He had quite a serious injury, and that's League Two. So maybe it's get another season under his belt there. And yeah. But I totally appreciate, and this is kind of like the situation that we're in, is we're looking at which players are still somehow, somewhere contracted to Leicester City and might be available to drag back in. Ashley, just your thoughts on young players. How many of them do you expect to see, or how many of them do you want to see in the starting lineup on Saturday?
I think it's about not expecting. I think we've got no choice. I think they're going to have to come in to bolster the squad either way. I think it's harsh on them really, because they shouldn't have to be relying on all the youth really. It's not fair on them, but obviously it's good for their development in the long run. But there's a lot of experienced heads out there that have let themselves down and the fans down as well. So, but regard on the question, I think Page has got a good future ahead of him. I think. I've got him written down here as playing the number 10 role maybe, but that's if Skip's fit or not. And moving Bobby Reid into the forward spot just for something different, because I can't carry on watching Ayew up front any longer. But yeah, it just seems like, but I feel like Monger's lost his way a little bit, and that's probably due to the management. But I think all the wingers have literally gone in themselves. They don't seem to take players on much more. And, it's always turning back and making a backward pass instead of going more direct, which I think that's what we're lacking. And I'm hoping that Andy King can kind of get onto believes in themselves and just say, right, let's go and attack it. Come on.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's actually it.
But I also think that on top of going forward, wondering whether Andy King can pull on, or give his mate Robert Huth a call, or maybe even Wes Morgan, and get them in and get us a clean sheet, make us hard to beat. I wouldn't mind us getting a 0-0, 1-0. If we're looking really solid, really looking like we're wanting to actually defend and feel a lot less open than we have done. Basically, we look flimsy at the back with Marty, and it over multiple games we were just not improved at all. And I'm hoping that Andy King potentially looks at a different approach and say, look, let's go back to basics. I think we've said this multiple times on multiple podcasts as well. Let's go back to basics. Let's make ourselves hard to beat. Let's, basically just grind it out. And I think the game against Charlton earlier in the season was a bit of an example of that, where it was one example in the season where we were blocking shots. I remember Coley was getting his body in the way, and same with Vestergaard, and we were actually grinding the result out. And it was a Fataru special, wasn't it, that won us the game down at the Valley, if I remember.
Yeah.
a bit of that, I think, is what I'd like to see. Just making it look like we actually want to get the result by hook or by crook. I don't care how we play. Let's just look like we want to apply ourselves. I think we've got enough quality in and around the other end to be able to nick a goal with Fatawu and with Mavadidi either side. So it's about being solid and not conceding and looking sloppy at the back. So that's what I'm hoping to see more than anything maybe going forward. I think
we're not asking for too much, are we?
Well, I think goal winners. Yeah, I know. Absolutely. I mean, yeah.
No clean sheet in 23 games. I mean, that's the big problem as well.
Yeah.
That would be an indictment on the
at any level of football. That is a disgrace. Let's be about right.
Totally. Yeah. And if Andy King came out on Saturday and got a clean sheet, even if it was 0-0, that would just be a massive kind of
big progress, wouldn't it?
It would be.
It'd be progress that we'd take as well, wouldn't it? Yeah. We're coming towards the end of the show, so if you're watching along live, lots of you doing so. Good evening to you. You've got a minute or two to get your predictions in before we finish up. So score predictions or how the game's going to go generally, or do you think we are going to get a clean sheet? Who do you think Leicester's goal scorers are going to be if you are predicting those? I've got to start on the clean sheet, interestingly, that well, it's not interesting because we know it, but since the start of last season, Leicester have the lowest clean sheet percentage of any team in England's top 4 tiers, with 6 clean sheets in 67 games. That is a percentage of just 9%. So enjoy that one. We have managed to get over half an hour before talking about our opponents on a preview show, but we've got a lot to talk about Leicester wise. So just a quick look at Charlton, below us in the league table, and you've got to be pretty bad to be in that position at the moment. They are the second worst away side in the Championship, behind West Bromwich Albion. Now, Ashley's covering his face there. And when I did this stat about West Brom on the preview a few weeks ago, I thought, right, what I've done there is I have jinxed it. It means that West Brom's horrific away run is going to come to an end. And it didn't. We beat them and we got their manager sacked. Now, so Charlton have got 2 away points since the beginning of November. They've picked up 2 draws and 6 defeats. There's only them, West Brom and Sheffield Wednesday, that haven't won away since the start of November. Now, this worked positively for Leicester when I did it on the preview against West Brom. So I thought I'd just bring that up. I mean, we haven't got time to go into sort of Charlton's squad or what we're going to expect from them, really, because, I mean, the focus is all on Andy King's Leicester, isn't it? But they come to the King Power in horrific away form, and we just about managed to beat West Brom when they did the same a few weeks ago. So there's a bit of positivity for you, even though Jono's turned off his disco lights and we're no longer having a celebration because he spent half an hour in mine and Ashley's company talking about Leicester City. So the celebration, the bit of joy that you had with the Samari news is clearly just drained out of you then. So let's finish with predictions then for Saturday in terms of how do we see the game going? What do we think the scoreline's going to be? Jono, we'll start with you. Yeah,
to coin a phrase from Pete Selby, fun sponge, I think he uses, isn't it? Turn those lights off. Yeah, I think it will be an improvement on Oxford United. It has to be because it can't get any worse than that, frankly. And I think that we will come out winners, probably 2-1. I don't think we'll get a clean sheet as much as I'd like to get one. But yeah, I think we'll nick it 2-1.
Michael is commenting online. Good evening to you, Michael. Thanks a lot for watching. Saying 1-1. Blue Fox Forever echoing your thoughts there, Jono, with a Leicester 2-1 win. Ashley, let's come to you. What are you predicting for Saturday?
I agree with Jono. I was going to go 2-1 as well, to be fair. As long as we can see some fight in the team, because that's why we lost against Oxford. There was no fight whatsoever. They wanted it more. There wasn't very good Oxford, but they just won all the 50-50s and they just seemed to battle more and, we rolled over. So that's what I want to see, is not roll over and just quit. Let's see a bit of fight from the lads, because the fans deserve it.
Andy Moore of forfoxsake.news says saying 2-0 Leicester. He's going for a Leicester win and he's going for a clean sheet. Now, Andy, I really hope you are correct with that one. I'm going to go for... I don't think I can do the clean sheet. I think on a couple of previews recently, I've tried to predict 0-0 in the hope that we just have the world's most boring game. But I'm not going for that. I'll tell you in a second. We've got another prediction coming in from David Tomlinson. Thanks, David, saying 1-1 as well. So there's maybe not as much optimism amongst the viewers and the listeners as there is in the studio here. But I'm going to go even more optimistic than Jono and Ashley. I'm going to go 3-1. I still don't think we've got a clean sheet in us, but I'm just hoping that Andy King, as Ashley just said there, gets the Leicester players just a little bit more committed to everything they're doing. And as we said a few minutes ago, just puts an arm round the players, the creative players, and says, look, once we've got the ball to you in an area, then you go and do what you feel is right at the time.
Express yourself. Go.
Absolutely. Because the expression, it's been sucked out of everyone other than Fatawu and Jordan James realistically this season, hasn't it? Another prediction coming in from Buzzer. Buzzer saying 3-0. He's got even bigger than Andy with the clean sheet there, but he's also predicting 3 goals. Thank you, Buzzer. Saying Kingy gets the King power rocking. Well, let's hope we'll finish on that one. We'll finish on that sentiment that Kingy gets the King power rocking. And Leicester managed to get themselves back to winning ways. Thanks to everybody who's watched along live and commented with us. And thank you to you as well if you are watching back on our socials, on YouTube, or listening back through wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe for Fox's Sake Live on YouTube and check out our website if you haven't done so already, for forfoxsake.news, for lots more stuff like this and what you do if you contribute to our website by subscribing for £5 a month or £50 for the year. You mean that we can keep these shows completely free of charge, and we can keep churning out the shows that you know and have loved for over 12 years now. So thank you very much for watching. We're all predicting that Kingy gets the King power rocking again on Saturday lunchtime. Nice one, lads.